Strange old Monday morning. Again, we're talking about the frailty of Manchester City, especially at home, especially against their greatest rivals, Manchester United. Manchester City won, Manchester United 2. Right at the death, they won it. Rashford, Garnacho, left out of the squad altogether by the new man, Ruben Amorim. And he gave his reasons why.
It was not a disciplinary thing. Next week, next game, new life. They are fighting for the places, but for me it's important the performance in training, the performance in game, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you engage with the teammates, the way you push your teammates. Everything is important in our context in the beginning of Sunday when we want to change a lot of things, when people in our club are losing their jobs. We have to put the standards really high. And for that, they have to fight for the place in the team. And today, the team proved that we can leave anyone outside the squad. You can manage to win if we play together.
I think that will be music to the ears of every Manchester United fan this morning, Simon. He's talking about diet. He's talking about the way you dress, the way you train, the way you are about the place. At a time of redundancies, you guys are still employed. That was a message that came over to me. So as employees, do your job, get involved. Amorim, I would have thought the noises that he's making are right up your street.
I think he's been given a large amount of latitude by the ownership to go in there and fix things. I think he will have seen the noise around certain players and what the perception of them is, and that there needs to be a sea change in their outlook or they can be shipped out. And he's probably been given that opportunity to do that by the ownership model that's now basically saying, okay, you're our guy and you can see what we can see and we're not having any more of it. So culturally, we want you to fix it. I think he talks very cleverly in terms of he doesn't really throw anybody on the bus, but he leaves people in no illusion as to what he expects from them in terms of the way they approach every aspect of the game. Playing for Man United is not just a vocation, it's a way of life. And that means you've got to embrace the culture of Manchester United, because when did it become Man United became about being a participation club? So it doesn't mean that he's on a fast track to fixing the problems there. It means that he's going to be relatively definite. And of course, he's got the wonderful opportunity to be able to trot out the piece de la resistance, which is we can win games without you lot, because ultimately they've gone to Man City and proven the point. Yeah. So whether I mean, I would wager you, and again, my tips are very, very rarely right. So that's why I bask in the reflective glory of every now when they are. But I would wager you that Rashford will be back in the squad for the next game. And Rashford is, I don't know whether Rashford is an Aubameyang moment for Amorim, because I think the Arteta moment was longer into his tenure as the manager of Arsenal. And Aubameyang was probably more divisive and more influential than Rashford is. Rashford is wasting his own time as well as potentially everyone else's. Yeah. Now, I've seen Rashford. I thought Rashford was better in the recent games, more at it, more alive, and certainly more on the front foot than he had been previously. And of course, we saw the wonderful pictures that he was sending us of how motivated he was in the first training session. So I don't know whether it's playing to the gallery or it's the right message, but I think he's enjoying himself in the media. He's read the room. He's clever. Yeah. He's seen what Ten Hag didn't do. And he's seeing what like remember we had a year ago, some guy came on and talked to us about the AI or the Google side of things, where you can match the trends of what people want to hear at Man United and deliver them the content.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think Amorim has read the room, knows what people's perception of it is. They don't really want to see Marcus Rashford bowling out of Madison Square Garden, having watched the New York Knicks in a Louis Vuitton hoodie and being shuffled around by... They don't really want to see it. Now, I'm not sure that's fair or right, but ultimately what Amorim is doing, I think it possibly is, but footballers forever and a day have lived their own life. What you want them to do is to be effective when they're around the club and be effective on the field and look like they care. Yeah. And Amorim has laid out his marker. He has not quite done it where he's set people on fire, but he's laid down the perspective of where he thinks he is. And fortunately, in this conversation, he's got a result of Man City so he can lay down his point. He was quick to talk about the fact that Johnny Evans wasn't picked either. And Johnny Evans would be considered to be the model pro. Most people would suggest that there's nothing issue with whether Johnny Evans should be central defender for Man United at this stage in his career is a different conversation. But I think what you saw was a galvanized that you're dealing with someone that's definite.
Definitely.
And I
Definitely,
like people that are definite. In the world of being definite, you're either definitely wrong or definitely right, but you should always be definite and ideally be definitely right.
But he's been also demonstrating as well, Simon, that there's been a lack of consequence, it would seem, at the football club. And now, unless you do it in training, you're out. Unless you eat properly, you're out.
Well, we will
dress
see.
properly. There's another thing.
And I agree.
You've got to love it all.
And I agree with all of that.
Love it.
I mean, talk is cheap, and we'll see if he follows through on it. I mean, some would say that Ten Hag didn't want Ronaldo. So he took on the biggest fish.
True.
And Ronaldo was gone.
True.
So some would say, well, hang on a second. Ronaldo was a bit of a problem. Despite him being a big player, there was all these issues around Ronaldo having a strop about everything. Every time he came off the pitch, smashed the phone out of the Everton fans' hand when he walked off the pitch, when he was substituted, constantly remonstrating on the touchline, whatever else that Ronaldo was doing. Yeah. So it's not necessarily something we haven't seen before, but he's got the energy. I think he's got a bit of style about him. And you can see the players are potentially beginning to respond to him, but what he's going to do is he's going to have a go at it, a proper go at it, and I think he might just have the personality, if he's got the correct support behind him, to find his way through this mire that United have managed to dig themselves into for the best part of over a decade.
Well, we saw what happened with Aubameyang at Arsenal when Arteta was let loose on him. Could Rashford be Amorim's Aubameyang moment? He's talking about standards, the need to meet the very high standards at Manchester United. Manchester United fans this morning, off the back of that City win, or the win over City, I should say, surely that's music to your ears. 03717 223344. In the short time he's been there, do you give Ruben Amorim the absolute thumbs up? 03717 223344.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.